very good day to all. Today, Group 7 will be presenting on the rights of the disabled people. I am, as the first presenter, will be presenting on the introduction and the background of this topic, which is the rights of the disabled people. World Health Organization (WHO) defined disabilities as an umbrella term covering impairments, activity limitations, and participation restrictions. Impairment is a problem in body function or structure or any activity limitation faced by an individual, which is a difficulty encountered by them in executing a task or action, while a participation restriction is a problem experienced by an individual in involvement in life situations. Disability is conceptualized as being a multidimensional experience for the person involved. In short, disability is actually a complex phenomena reflecting an interaction between features of a person's body and features of society in which he or she lives. Today, disabled person makes up the largest minority in the world. There are more than 1 billion people, or 15% of the world's population, are estimated to live with some form or type of disability. In the most countries, at least 1 out of 10 person has a physical, mental, or sensory impairment. The number of persons with disabilities in the developing and underdeveloped countries is much more higher than in developed countries. This is actually a major cause, which is due to the poverty that will increase the risk of poor health and malnutrition. For an example, according to the World Health Organization source, about 40% of Africa's population consists of people with disabilities, including 10 to 15% of school-age children. This percentage shows that about 300 million people with disabilities can be found in Africa. Next, moving to India. In India, more than 50 million people are facing problem of disability in one way or another. I would like to highlight that human rights issues regarding persons with disabilities is an important issue in the international arena. Moving next to the background of this topic, as I mentioned in the introduction just now, human rights issues involving individuals with disabilities is a global crucial issue. There has been initiative taken to combat this issue and putting more focus on the rights of the person with disabilities. For an example, the United Nations having lots of campaigns regarding the human rights protection in general and various sections in particular. The UN made the first specific document on disabilities in 1997, which is the Declaration on the Human Rights of Mentally Retarded Persons. International human rights instruments apply to all persons and includes persons with disabilities too. Based on the international human rights law, every person has the right to equality, non-discrimination, equal opportunity, independent living, full integration, and also security, whereby the Universal Declaration of Human Rights reflects the rights that every person should have, and it has led to formulating the basic standard concerning persons with disabilities. In Article 25(1) of UDHR mentioned that socio-economic rights of people with disabilities, which are rights to adequate standard of living, including food, clothes, housing, employment, security. All men are born free and equal in dignity and rights. All are equal before the law and entitled to equal protection against discrimination, and everyone has the right to freedom of thought. The international community has not neglected and recognized the rights of persons with disabilities. The people with disabilities can be classified according to groups such as visual impaired, hearing, physical, learning disabilities, speech, mental, and multiple disabilities. Despite that, there are still cases of discrimination and prejudices towards them. Women and children in disabled populations suffered the worst. For an example, in India, as mentioned previously, there are more than 50 million of people are facing problem of disability in one way or another. The Constitution of India guarantees rights of people with disability in terms of politics, economic, cultural, and social rights, but only stays in the Constitution and little enforcement has been done. As for Malaysia, according to the report that we obtained from Human Rights Commission of Malaysia in 2017, the discrimination and inequality is still taking place towards disabled people Even though there is an enactment of the Persons with Disabilities Act 2008 and the ratification of the Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities in 2010. These issues need to be solved immediately, and the participation of people with disability in all relevant decision-making process has to be promoted. Now, I would like to call upon next presenter Nisa to take the floor in order to talk and explain on the statistic and the problems faced by the people, disabled people.
Thank you, Shealin. Before I proceed to my part, I would like to introduce myself. Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Khairunnisa Azhar and my matric number is 261502. Today I will present about the problem that faced by the disability person. First, we go to this chart. As we can see, the registered person with disability PWD under Department of Social Welfare Malaysia in 2070 are 453,258 persons. PWD in a physical category recorded the highest number, which is 35.2%, followed by learning disability category 34.8% and visually impaired category 8.9%. Meanwhile, speech category recorded the lowest, which is 0.5%. Next, I will explain on the problem that faced by the disability person. This part will identify the problem occur to disabled person that affect various aspect of their life, especially in social aspect, such as healthcare, transport, education, and employment. First, the problem that faced by the disability person is accessibility to healthcare. There are persons who identify with disability since their birth, and some people become disability as they involve in accident. The problem is, does they get access to healthcare as much as normal person? Are they get equal treatment, or they being treated unfairly? In Malaysia, some people did not treat disability person well, as they have negative perception toward people with disability. The big problem occur when healthcare worker itself misbehave toward them. The staff be lacking of training and knowledge tend to make a mistake. When the staff did not understand patient with disability, wrong treatment could be done and bring harm to the patient. In example, when a mute person come to the clinic and none of the staff can translate what he said, miscommunication can be occur. Besides that, rehabilitation service, preventative care, and early treatment should be prioritized to disability person. Second, the problem is accessibility to education. According to UNESCO, ordinary people who age above 22 years old have 7 years of schooling, but people with disability in the same age only have 4 years and half of schooling over 22 countries. Before, the disability person did not get equal education because of absent school with complete facility. Moreover, many teachers did not learn on how to interact, entertain, and teach disabled students in the past. This situation show that disabled person rights have been ignored. People with Disabilities Act 2008 could be a good strategy for Malaysian government to fulfill the right of people with disabilities. The third problem is accessibility to transport. Transport is essential in human life as it make their life easier and make them move easily from one place to another. Yet, most of the public transport are not disabled, or we call it as a friendly user. For instance, buses in Malaysia provided space for disability person, which is for the people that using wheelchair, but the bus in turn are not accessible. They still need help from other people to get into the bus. Thus, people with disabilities have limitation in accessibility of transport. Fourth, the problem is equality in employment. Employment become a crucial global issue until today. Fresh graduates link with this problem as they keep increasing from year to the year. The sad part is that people with disabilities always treated unfairly and left behind in this issue. Their right to get equal opportunity in getting job being ignored as employer believe that they are not qualified and more likely cannot fulfill the job scope given. In this part, the overall conclusion that can be made is some of the problem have been identified. They have a limited access to the education, healthcare, even in a transport as well as employment. People with disabilities always been looked down by other people and their rights have been violated. As a human being, ordinary person should treat them equally like other person. Agencies such as government and non-governmental organizations or NGOs should help disabled person and create better life for them. That's all for my part, and I will pass to the next presenter, Sharifah Fatin Aina, and she will explain on the Human Rights Declaration or Convention.
Thank you, Nisa, for the explanation and elaboration on the part of problem faces by the disabled person. So, in my part, I will be discussing and explaining about the Human Rights Declaration for the disabled person. Moving on to the 3.0 Human Rights Declaration for the disabled person. So, disabled person are confronted more issue compared to the ordinary people because their rights sometimes seem to be neglected in terms of accessibility, healthcare, education, infrastructure, transportation, and even sometimes employment equality. But in essence, the Declaration on the Rights of a Disabled Person stated that all people with a disability have the same right as other people. In this part, I will list out all the rights of the disabled person that were adopted in the Human Rights Declaration and in the Convention. The first declaration is the Declaration on Social Progress and Development. In Article 19, advocates the arrangement of free well-being administration and the institution of measure to supply social security and social welfare administration for all people. Those administration incorporate measures to rehabilitate the mentally and physically debilitated to encourage their integration into the society. In regards to this declaration, as example, in Malaysia, there is a rehabilitation center that was implemented by the Malaysian government, such as community-based rehabilitation, which is CBR. It is a service developed by the Department of Social Welfare, JKM. It is a plan for the investment for the local community, for the recovery, preparation, equalization of opportunity and social inclusion of people with disabilities. Moving on to the second declaration, which is the Declaration on the Rights of Mentally Retarded Person. This declaration utilizing the rights of disabled person in reference for the protection of the mentally retarded needs to the greatest degree of possibility on the same right as other human beings. Hence, this disabilities person has a right to financial security and to have a better than average standard of living. He encompasses a right to perform profitable work to lock in any other important occupation to the fullest conceivable degree of his capability. But for instance, in Malaysia, the Malaysian government through the government aids give a financial aid to the disabled person, such as monthly income maintenance and also monthly financial assistance for those disabled person that are jobless. Next is the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability, which is CRPD. In this convention, in Article 9, where it mentioned about the rights of accessibility for the disabled person as it refers to the enabling disabled people to live independently and participate fully in all aspects of life. State parties shall take suitable measures to ensure disabled people get to on a rise to premise with the others, to the physical environment, to the transportation and other facilities and services open or given to the public, both in the urban and also the rural area. For instance, in Malaysia, the government provided a bus for the physical disabled person, but unfortunately, it was not provided for those who live in the rural area. This also same goes with the pedestrian infrastructure that only available in the city but not in the rural area. This shows that state parties should play a vital role in providing the infrastructure, not only in the urban area but also in the rural area as well, in order to make sure that the disabled person got their rights no matter where they live. Moreover, in this convention, it also stated the right to education for the disabled person. In Article 24, it depicts that the state party are responsible to ensure that the people with disability are not prohibited from the general education system on the premise of incapacity, with disabled children also not excluded from the free and obligatory education. Even though in Malaysia, the disabled person still does not get an equal right to the education, but the government of Malaysia has presented 3 special education programs in the Malaysia, namely Special Education School, Special Education Integrated Program (SEIP), and also Inclusive Education Program. These special education programs are being overseen by the Ministry of Education for right now. The government also still working on the progress of achieving a universal primary education in order to make sure that every disabled person are given the equal right to the education. So, I will pass the next part to Nur Shahirah to explain and elaborate more on the steps taken in solving the problem faces by the disabled person.
Step that has been taken in solving the problem faced by disabilities people. First, Person with Disabilities Act PWDA 2008. Second, Right of Disability People in Public Infrastructure and Transportation. Third, Government and NGO collaboration. Thank you to my group member. Next, I am Nur Shahirah binti Cik with metric number 261239. We resume our presentation with a step that have been taken by Malaysian government in tackling this disability people issue. Malaysia government has taken several action in solving and seizing this issue as a way to reduce the problem. By that, they have provided rules or act regarding this matter and has enforced it publicly. Apart from that, organization of local platforms such as non-governmental organization also have taken an action to ensure the disability people can also have a normal life and to be treated more equally. In tackling the issue, in an effort to ensure the problem come at ease, the government of Malaysia has taken an action into providing a service for people with disability. For instance, in 2008, the Person with Disabilities Act or PWA was passed by in Parliament. The Act had taken an account in ensuring an access for the disabled people to public facilities such as transport and recreation, sport service and leisure. Furthermore, there were also building by law amended in making it compulsory for building to provide access and facilities for disabled people. While for an existing building, the owner is allowed 3 years in time to make the building complete with the service facilities. Next, the public transportation and infrastructure should also be a disabilities friendly so that it will be more easier for them to use it in public. As per that, many initiatives have been done in a way to ensure their convenience while using the public infrastructure and facilities. As per instance, there is a tactile walk route for the blind people, which is in Malaysia. Kuala Lumpur City Hall or DBKL has increased the enforcement for a tactile walkway to ensure a smooth pathway for the blind people, and also most of the lift has the accessibility function for blind people to use them. Next, Malaysia also have introduced a disabled-friendly buses that has been equipped with special facilities. As such, according to Group Infrastructure Director of Syarikat Prasarana Negara Berhad, Prasarana, they had purchased 150 buses from Germany that are designed with special facilities to disable people to board and disembark easily. However, there are also some obstacles and barriers to the effort in this related issue. It is as such there were not so many existing services that have been adapted. Most of the public transport and train stations are not yet fully accessible to people with limited mobility. The government of Malaysia also always committed to get to grip with this issue. By that, there are agency, organization or corporate sector and even individuals who are predominantly taking an effort to reduce and ease or stop the problem by providing the resources, financial assistance and other services support towards them in a way to ensure the improvement of disabilities people live. As per that, Malaysia has such provided financial assist and other services. Among them are such as disabled workers allowance assistance with orthotic and assistive devices, community-based rehabilitation, and others. And there are also national organizations and NGO which render an assistance and services to them whenever necessary as part of their commitment to social service. There are Kiwanis Down Syndrome Foundation or KDSF, Malaysian Care, Cheshire Home, Care Heart, Taman Sinar Harapan, and many other religious organizations. Thank you. I'm pass the presentation to the next presenter.
Thank you, Shahirah, for the informative presentation just now. Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. My name is Nur Asma binti Muhammad Said and my metric number is 263080. So now we move to the suggestion for solve the problem. There are several ways in solving the problems that related to the disabled people can be taken by the government, community, individual and others. For example, the community can voice out their opinion or recommendation to show their concerns toward the disabilities people to the authority. One of the suggestions is to fulfill the Convention of Right of Person with Disabilities. In the Convention of the Right of Person with Disabilities (CRPD) under the Department of Economic and Social Affairs and United Nations, there are 50 articles that extensively address about the disability right. Most countries are very supportive by committing the rights but cannot implement them very well because the countries are lack of monitoring mechanism. Based on the Global Education Monitoring, GEM, one of the suggestions is the government should fulfill the CRPD commitment to set up the mechanism for coordination, independent monitoring, enforcement, complaint and reparation. Each country should emphasize the content of the convention and put more effort to ensure the rights of the disability are being preserved and treated fairly. Public awareness and understanding of disabilities. Community attitudes are according to the type of disability. Based on the research did by the Social Policy Research Center of University of New South Wales, the mindset of the people indicates that many of them are dissatisfied with mental illness but less with physical disorder. However, there are a few people who have less concern for illness or disability and look down on them. This clearly shows that the public have lack of awareness and understanding about the disabled people. In order to gain information on knowledge, belief and attitudes about disability, the public should read more or participate in any talks that related to disabilities. It can also help the public to reduce the gaps between people with disabilities and others when they can be handled in a polite way by the public. Next, invest in specific program and health service. Disability can cause and also be a consequences of poverty. This is how the disabled worker will lead to the jobless that reduce their earning and at the same time they need to pay for health expenses. These obstacles often push them to face other challenges and place them in financial difficulty. The financial issue may also prevent them from receiving health service, medicine, and disability-specific aids. By participating and investing in particular program or health service, it is one of the ways for the government and organization to contribute to disability-friendly community. So here with a few budget, Ministry should work together with association in obtaining funds to offset healthcare expenditure. Improve data collection. The information about the disabled citizen is important to the country to manage and improve the facilities and expenditure. In taking any action to protect the right of disability in terms of education, employment, health service, and access to the public transportation or infrastructure, the first step to address the disability is by acknowledging them existence. It also could be better to address the disability needs if the disabilities people to report or declare themselves with the authority so that the government can gather the details in the position to meet the disabilities need. As we are in the modernization with the advanced technology, this could be more easier for them to enroll as they can do it by the online. Registration is a vital for them, so it will allow the government to obtain the disabled people exactly and provide their needs accordingly.
In conclusion, it is obvious that disabled people have their own rights and freedoms that they should really enjoy with. There are some challenges faced by people with disabilities precisely in healthcare, education, transportation, housing, and jobs that they really do affect their lives. All the people around the world should take this thing and issue seriously. The entities, governments, IGOs, and NGOs around the world need to take this thing seriously. There are even a lot of organizations who are fighting for the rights of the disabled people. In short, I would like to highlight that every single individual around the world should participate themselves in order to help these needed people. They also need a specific treatment and should be treated equally as a normal human being. Finally, we would like to end our presentation today with a video clip. Thank you for having us today.